Once upon a time, in the alleys of Baghdad, Balin was beating a drum. He would beat the drum from morning until evening, and he would collect all the money he earned in his bag. The shoe he was wearing had become very worn out. Balwa had spent 20 years wearing that shoe. Every time his patch was torn off with a new patch, patches piled up on top of each other and his disease became extremely ugly. Because of this, the drummer stayed up one night while he was in the entire city of Baghdad. The truth is that the drummer was very stingy and earned money from beating the drum. But he spends very little on himself. Enduring hardships and collecting money were the goals of his life, and he was not satisfied with food or benefited anyone with his money. One day, the drummers went to a market and found a merchant from Aleppo coming to sell a lot of glassware. Golden in color and beautiful in shape, the drummer was very clever and quickly realized it. The merchant is worried about selling me his goods, but he cannot find a Spanish buyer. When he saw the beautiful times for you, he coveted them, and deception entered his heart, so he faced a merchant with a false record. The merchant said, "It is very difficult to sell these goods," so he accepted my advice. If you find someone who appreciates it, sell it for a higher price to lighten this burden for yourself, so take a Tajir with his sweet words. After bargaining, he sold you the beautiful vessels to the drummer for 60 dinars. Were it not for the rhyme of this cheek, I would have sold it for less than this price, or even 10 times it. The drummer sighed to himself and said, "I have deceived the merchant in a great deception today. He came to trade. I will profit from these utensils twice as much as I paid." Then he went to my shop with dates. Buying from it was sold at a low price using the same trick. Then the beautiful times filled with those dates. When he returned home, he arranged the gold utensils in one of the rooms. One day, it occurred to him to go to the bathroom, and he had not showered for months. She would wake up early the next day, and that would be one of the pigeons in Baghdad. There he encountered a friend of God, one by one, above the eyes of the friend, who was no longer a border but a group of accumulated patches. He could not control himself and said, "The dear is true. God has bestowed money on you, and yet you are still in this state. You are alone and have no children, so for whom do you collect this money and keep it for yourself? And if you hold on to this shoe, leave it to God, so he does not charge you to buy, and this is new. Nothing is mentioned. And you earn 8 times that in one day." The times were times of reconciliation above your arrogance. When you believed in charity, there was a good place in his heart, so he said, "You are right, my brother. I will take your advice tomorrow, God willing." Then the drummer entered the bathroom and stayed for a long time, massaging his body and wiping it clean of the dirt. After I finished asking and left the room to change my clothes, I found my father coming to me with his old shoes and new ones placed on them. He immediately thought that his generous distress had not been darkened, so he left him new shoes and said to himself, "May God reward him well. How generous he has been in distress." This is how the situation is, so I rush with happy steps, not just the new shoes, and we go home. The drummer was so happy today. I thought God was bringing him a new shoe instead of someone else pushing one into the tooth. He did not know that his joy would turn into sadness, and that as soon as this shoe entered his house, it would bring misfortune with it. It was as if fate decided to punish him for his miserliness and reward him because he did not feel any regret when he left behind the shoe that had served him for 10 years. In fact, the shoe that he thought was a gift for his distress was the shoe of the judge of Baghdad. The judge was in the bathroom at the same time, and he had not finished washing and searched for his shoes, but he could not find them, so his anger intensified. He ordered the pigeon owner to search the whole place and said, "Perhaps we will find God's shoes and from them we will lead to the thief." After a long search, he found the old drummer's shoe, which no one ever wears. Because this shoe was famous in Baghdad, people recognized it immediately and told the judge about it. When the judge heard this, he ordered his men to surround the drummer's house and search him. So he did so and found the judge's shoe in the house, so they took it and the drummer who stole his ear was also arrested. Like a drummer, this judge tried hard to prove her innocence, but the judge did not accept a single word because the stolen shoe was found in his house. He ordered him to be flogged, then imprisoned for several days, and imposed a heavy fine on her. His imprisonment did not end, and outside he was in a state of gloom and anger, Tartan blaming himself and Tartan cursing this unfortunate event. Yarius said that everything that happened to him was because of him, and he said to himself, "If it were not for this shoe, I would not have fallen into these calamities." He did not tolerate these insults, and every time he thought about it, his resentment toward the shoe increased, so he finally decided to get rid of his old shoe once and for all. It occurred to him to throw it into the Tigris River in a deep place, so he wrapped it in an old piece of cloth and went out with it early to the Tigris River. Then he threw it with all his strength into a very deep place. The shoe was heavy, so it sank to the bottom quickly. When he saw no trace of it on the surface of the water, the relief collapsed. He returned to their home happily in Sard, but his luck did not leave him. The next day, a poor fisherman came to that place on the Tigris River. The caster cried for it, hoping for a bountiful catch, and Machar was happy with the weight of the net and began to pull it little by little, but his hope was disappointed when he found in it the same shoe wrapped as it was. He did not see it until he recognized it, for there was no one in Baghdad who was ignorant of the story of that shoe, so he said to himself, "This shoe must have fallen from the drummer into a fire, for they do not run on the goose in the water, but for this reason, the shoe remained in the bottom of a fire." So the fisherman said to himself, "I will return it to the drummer, so that he can be happy that it will come back strong." So he took it and went to the drummer's house. He called out, but no one answered. He went to look for it in the market of Baghdad, perhaps finding it and handing him a pair of shoes, but it had no effect on him. So the fisherman returned to the house and knocked on the door, greatly anxious for the drummer to wake up, but he did not find it useful. They decided to return the next morning, and while he was about to leave, he did not hesitate. It was an open window in the wall of the house, so it occurred to him that he would throw the shoe through it and inside so that the drummer would find it when he returned. He did not hesitate to throw the shoe forcefully through the window, but a sudden question arose, as the shoe fell directly on the beautiful glassware that the drummer had carefully arranged, smashing all of them and then throwing their fragments around the room. When the drummer returned to the house and saw the ruin, he grabbed his head and looked so shocked that he became so angry that he could not control himself, and with a sudden outburst, he pressed him and clutched his face. After that, he took a little and picked up a shoe as if it were a living being that understood and understood. He said, "How hideous is the hour in which I have known you, O you filled shoes! It is as if you swore to me all my life, 'Curse me, you have brought upon me unbearable calamities, and I swear to you that I will bury you in a hole from which you will not emerge until the day of resurrection.'" His anger was almost turning white and his face was red, so he grabbed a shovel and a sail to dig a hole. He entered the house to put the shoe on us and get rid of his affliction. In the stillness of the night, the strike of the pick produced a powerful whip that aroused fear among the people of the neighborhood. Everyone thought that the stone was digging into a house, so they went out in panic, searching for the guard and telling him what was happening. The guard came with his assistants, blowing whistles quickly, until they came upon the drummer's house, from which the sounds of drilling in the attic were coming, so he entered the house and seized it. This situation has reached the ruler, and he is also required to pay a fine and pay what Cuthir is responsible for, and the prince will be imprisoned. And when he came out after a few sentences of punishment, there was no one left to lose his mind, so the guardians of his house decided with us that he should get rid of the shoes immediately. He did not wait until the morning, but that same night he wrapped his shoes in a piece of cloth and took his father to a large khan and adad and threw them into her sewer drain. He thought that by doing this, the face of the shoes would never be ominous, but man wants evil and deprives fate of something else. After a few days, the drain became clogged and foul odors spread throughout the place, so the people opened the matter and found something on top of the canal that prevented the flow of water. After a long effort, he took that thing out and found it was the drums themselves. The people became angry and informed the police chief, so he seized the tubal again and brought it to the judge. This time, the judge imposed 3 fines on her, one as a habit of getting used to the humiliation caused by the hatta, a second to the owner of the inn, and a third for neglecting it. Her canon, i.e., a canon, did not leave her alone. This hatta would not leave him in any condition, so she would submit to the status quo and decide not to be subjected to it after today. He washed the gifts well and put them on the roof of the house and said to himself, I won't have anything to do with it anymore, but I don't think he will be disappointed again. Yuman did not despair until the whirlwind of Al-Munriya came and picked up the gifts while they were blown in the dirt and spat on the head of a man passing by on the road, causing him a severe injury and blood flowing down his head. People gathered around the injured person, and when they saw the shoe, they immediately knew that it must have been the work of the drummer. She had been struck by the drummer's attack all over Baghdad, so he issued a report again to the judge who looked into the case and imposed a huge fine on her, warning him not to repeat such negligence, otherwise I would be imprisoned. The fines continued until all the money he had accumulated in his bag was exhausted, so he turned the well-to-do man into a needy poor man. Finally, after much thought, he wrote a petition to the judge explaining his suffering because of this shoe. The judge did not read the petition. He almost laughed until the oppressor said to him and was confused about his matter, then said, No, what do you want in the end? The drummer said, clasping their hands in supplication, Master, I only want you to rid me of this shoe. I am fed up with it, and I do not want to have anything to do with it. We are far away today. Let the whole city know that the drummer has killed him with this shoe. And what calamity I will suffer because of him, so do not bear that the wild one is responsible for it. The drummer said, I do not know this kite, nor does he know me. Then he opened his kite and said in a voice brimming with pain, like the wound of the affliction. He ordered it to be announced in the entire city of Baghdad that the drummer was no longer responsible. However, what might happen because of this kite? So we were taught to turn the drummer after these 2 nights. The story of the kite had spread throughout the city until it reached the caliph's palace. Then those close to the kite informed the caliph of what had happened. On that day, the caliph was important to Muqtaman. When he heard the news of the kite, he removed them and turned his sadness into laughter until he almost lay down from the intensity of laughter. Thus, the drummer's luck was awakened, so the caliph ordered him to go quickly. While the caliph was waiting for a meeting, the drummer was asleep in his house, and that night he saw a strange vision. He saw a shoe addressing him and saying to him, reproaching him, Are you angry with me for what happened to you in your old companionship? Do you not know that what happened was by God's command? Perhaps God wanted to purify you from the sin of miserliness and free you from the love of accumulating money, as if I have seen you in this state for 10 years, and you have not spared their lives for the sake of God. If this is a punishment for you, then why be ashamed and not let some time fade away? If you take care to help the poor and needy with your money, calamities will go away from you, because whoever benefits people only thanks me, O God, and God loves those who are grateful. So the drummer was happy with this advice and swore in his dream that he would change his condition and leave miserly. He had hardly finished speaking when he heard a loud knock at the door, so he stood up and saw the soldiers of the caliph standing and directing him to attend, hurried away with his clothes on, and with what they had on them. When he entered upon the caliph, he greeted him with a smile and said, laughing, "I have legs. Tell us about the story of your guidance," and the drummer narrated it like this, accusing it from the beginning to the end. So the caliph was very positive about it and ordered him a great donation that made him rich in Madlahaya, and from that time on, he was no longer that miserly miser, al-Shahiyah, as he had been. And the poor, and he ate it and had intercourse with Mughira and lived a decent life after he was held. Friends, condolences. From which country are you watching this video? What do you think of this story? Share your opinions in the comments and subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next story.